And you're live. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Dave here with Affordable Door and Gate. I come on here for you guys and you guys only. So if you got any questions, don't hesitate, jump in, ask. Interaction's always good. Give it a thumbs up if you don't mind. Um, we're going to talk a little bit maybe about this year, and we'll kind of go across any questions that come up. I'm always playing around a little bit to see what days are kind of better for people. It might be something the weekends are going to work better. Tuesday has been pretty decent for you guys. It seems like Monday is always kind of everything's crazy on Monday, right? All right, so let me get tuned in here a little bit. Oh, I wanted to address Nathan. Nathan reached out to me, which I appreciate. He had very nice, kind words to say. He says that he definitely enjoys the videos, and he says that he learns, quite a bit from me. So that's excellent because that's really a lot of the reasons why I do it. Is I do it for you guys, because there's a lot of knowledge up in this head, a lot of experiences, and I look at it like if I can help you not have to go through the hard times, that makes me happy because for me, I didn't come from a family that had any kind of business aspects. Um, I came from a family that had hard workers and stuff like that, blue collared. But nobody that really ran businesses. It wasn't until later, I actually met when I met my wife, um, that her grandpa had a ran a business, and he's a great dude. He's really smart. Um, but he's really not maybe up to today's standards, if that kind of makes sense. Like he's back in his era. Nothing wrong with that. I'm going to be there someday too, probably. But that's why I also try to open up my mind because I always told myself years ago, I said, I don't want to be that guy that's going to be like stuck, right? Like I'm only using LiftMaster. That's all we're going to ever use because there's nothing else better, which obviously that's been proven wrong. Mr. Sky overhead. It's always good to see you. I'm glad you're here. What did you do on a particular day like today? Did you make any money? Let's hope so. But I was just watching. I was just checking out Mister SOS. I seen he had a little short video he was doing on the LiftMaster, and I'm watching these newer LiftMaster residential, and I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, have the times have changed. I wonder if anybody that watches this has also done the cameras. They were kind of just starting coming out. I see there's a few at the shop, but I just don't. That's too techy. I just don't even want to deal with that. I don't want to get on somebody's phone. I don't want to see the wrong picture. Um, it just starts getting a little bit hairy. You know what I mean? Like when we had to do the Wi-Fi and stuff like that. Yeah, that gets a little, like I don't like going to people's houses. That's not what I signed up for in a sense. I'm sure you can make, there's always you can spin it, right? Everybody's business is different, how they run it. So, yeah, you know what I mean? Like you could probably have a separate division that's like, oh, that's our tech, that's our geek squad. You know what I mean? They'll be here and they'll get your, stuff set up for you. But I did the mechanical stuff. The door opens and closes. So, have a good day. That's kind of like my department. The reason I liked the garage doors was because I didn't have to go in the house typically and deal with, the boots and all that kind of stuff and Fluffy, licking me in the face or trying to grab my hiney. So what's Mr. Tanner got here? Excuse me. It doesn't in front of him, but yes, it's a blessing. Of course, to run into hard times makes you a better and learn from mistakes, in my opinion. That's very true. That's very true. I think what I really get a kick out of is sometimes I think about like, I go into this with my nephew, right? And he is a young man. I don't even know how young he is. I don't think he hit 20 yet. Somewhere between 18 and 20. And the things I know with being, like I was just thinking about him today, and I was telling myself, I was thinking, I'm telling you, man, it's like when you hit 40, things change. You're over the hill, and at least for me, it was almost like mentally, physically, and I'm not saying it has to be right. I mean, I can still trust me. I can still whoop you. And but it's just the wealth of knowledge that you have where you finally kind of go, "Hey, I'm not peeing and pooping my pants over every situation. This will work out." I always look at it like you only have one thing to fear. That's death. I can't tell you what's going to happen afterwards. You might go to the heavens, you might go to hell. It might be nothing. Might be like when you sleep sometimes. Sometimes you dream, sometimes you don't. I don't know. But that's your biggest thing, right? So don't fall off that ladder. Don't fall off that scissor lift. Don't fall off that scaffolding. Wear the harness. Take care of your body. Be smart. You know, don't kill yourself. Things of that nature. But I was thinking to myself about them. And I thought, man, that's the time to hustle. You know what I mean? Because it's like now that I hit kind of that 40 where I kind of go, I'm methodical. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, I don't have those ups and downs like I used to, which is sometimes it's kind of good for you, right? Because it kind of puts like the fear of God in you. You're like, oh my gosh, I gotta pay these bills. These wolves are howling. I got to do this. I bit off way more than I can chew, and I don't know. It's just different. It's different when you start looking at things, especially when you start having a family, start having kids. A lot of things change. Just want to make sure somebody wasn't messaging me. So I say the same. It says I say the same things. I just give them the paper and leave it up to them. Oh man, 21 years old guy is good with the tech stuff. So I stick. Oh man, this is funny. I say, come on then. People behind the phone set up. That's awesome. That's awesome, Tanner. That we had a guy, a kid that was working too. He ended up he went to another job. Unfortunately, he was good. He was very tech, and so we kind of still muster away from it a little bit. We'll do it if they really twist our arm, but it's. Like I said, we try to really just be like, here's the instructions, and if you really, really, really do have any problems, you can let us know, but it has to be real bad problems. So, but that's just kind of the world we're changed into. I don't know if anybody that watches my channel, if anybody's dealt with that whole the Amazon, like the Amazon packaging delivery and stuff. Like Amazon's supposed to, get into the garage door. I have no clue even how exactly that works. But have you had good experience? Have you had bad experience? If you have done it. Um, it doesn't seem very prevalent up here because we're pretty rural, like I could see in the cities, especially for people that have houses that are like right up to alleyways and stuff like that. I could see where that's beneficial, but I haven't. We don't see it too much around here. At least I haven't seen it anywhere I've gone where somebody's Amazon's there and I'm like, oh, garage door's opening. I don't even know if they ever kind of went with that. Maybe they got in trouble too, because that seems, I don't know. I could see somebody having a lawsuit or something that just, I don't know, access, I don't know, dog in there. There's one, I think, with a chicken. I've seen that. It says, what's this say? What's Mr. Brendan? Is it Brandon? Brandon. Should wear my glasses. I always like to help the older ones program their built-in car remotes when they ask. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Because more than likely, when it comes to uh, the older people, the older generation, like myself, um, they're going to screw it up. And so either you do it for them in a sense, or you're going to come back. And we all know what that means. more money, more money out of your pocket. That's what it turns into, unless you're kind of crooked and you're, you, it all, I, like I said, I went to that one guy. I still remember it just plain as day. And he was like an hour. Like I said, we're doing stuff for Lowe's, and I'm up there and I'm thinking, when I got that Lowe's warranty work, and they said, that opener had a malfunction. You got a warranty call. And I'm like, oh, there ain't no way Uncle Dave did it. You know what I mean? Like, I do the best, my crap never stinks. And so I go out there, and I'm messing with it and I'm looking at it. I'm like, how did this thing lose its limits? I'm like, genies don't ever lose their limits. I'm like, that's LiftMaster, and I'm sitting there messing with it. And that guy goes, yeah, he goes, I was trying to mess with those buttons to get it to program in my car. And I'm like, you what? Sir, can I put you on camera? Which it ain't gonna do no good. But I was very irritated. And he was older, and but that's when I was telling myself, I thought, what I'm going to start doing, I'm going to start getting these stickers made, those tear off ones, like off packages, right? Or whatever it is, like at the gas station, that when they're tamper. So when you rip it, it says tampered or whatever on it. I was literally at one time going to start putting that on openers. I don't know why in the garage door business, it's like you go through these streaks. You go through these streaks of like bad checks, and all of a sudden you'll get 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, and then you'll go through like these opener problems, right? All of a sudden you'll be like, all of a sudden people are calling you, I got an opener problem, and you're like, huh, like where'd this come from? You know what I mean? And it's kind of like almost like the same. It could be the same thing, or it could be close. It's kind of like for me too, at least in our area. It's like when I was doing a lot of service on residential, it was really weird to me. Like, this is really weird. We would get like you get like a broken spring, and then you get like another broken spring like the next road over, like the same day. I was like, how does that? It's like sometimes it was like, oh, I'd sit there and try to justify it and go, oh, well, it's because they were built in the same era. Not that doesn't really matter. I'd have some that were like a subdivision, brand new subdivision, not brand new, but a newer subdivision than an older townhouse, whatever it is. And it's like, these aren't even the same era. It's like, how does, why, and sometimes it was like, I kind of went, yeah, well, good for me, because I'm already in the area, so it's like you're making extra money. So weird things like that, where I always tried to justify it. So I always like this. What's up, Mr. Jaden's Garage Doors? What's up? Yes, Dave, your videos are very informative. How business going for you? I think the residential is slowing down. I was at the shop tonight, and I didn't see a lot of resis. So I think the residential, I see some coming through the emails. So, and it's like exciting. It's like in a dopamine rush. You know what I mean? So like with Jobber, it'll say like customer viewed, quote. And then all of a sudden you'll see like 10 minutes later something, customer approved quote. And it does like a little burst of like, I don't know, confetti or something, it's like, oh, well, they approved it. That's awesome. Good job, guys. So there is some stuff out there. I know I see on the board, there's a lot of PMs, and what I just said. And so there's a lot of PMs, and I see there's some other work, some of it's weather dependent a little bit, some gate stuff, loops. So I'm sure but I did ask Cap, I said, hey, what do you, and he goes, at least I'm not feeling like I'm buried, and I can't breathe. And I said, that's good, because this happens this time of year, and you might get a little bit of a burst once taxes come back in. You might get a little burst. I know with the weather right now, we're warming up, so that's kind of getting people feel like spring. So, but plus the stock market right now was doing good. Now it's probably going to tank, because obviously the Federal Reserve came out and talked about, they might not do it till March or something, a cut, and I'm sure you'll see a little burst right there out of it. But man, we got a lot of wars in the cards right now. So all it's going to take is some bad news, and then stuff's going to really start kind of, especially residential. Commercial, like I said, is more stable because they can't fluctuate that fast. They already got something in the pipeline. They already, they they got to keep running the trucks, either if they're doing roads or maintenance people, whatever. But residential can just turn on a dime. And I knew a guy that got burned really bad when back in the '08, he was doing the big builder, man. I mean, this guy seemed like he was on top of the world, right? Just houses after houses after houses. That was a very good learning experience for me. I was even trying to get in with them, right? I was like, this dude's got it made. I mean, he's got the brand new SUVs. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 of them running around. There's 2 guys in each truck. They're on their phones. They got paperwork just flying out everywhere. And all of a sudden, it was just pow, man. They shut right down. And I heard that garage door guy that was with them, he ended up getting burned really bad because obviously they're, running the clock on it basically. And he didn't get paid on certain jobs when they closed their door and did a bankruptcy, whatever. And so, that's why I've always been kind of like the builders can be tough. I'm not saying they can't be good because, you think about it, right? I mean, it's a normally the margins are tight too. You know what I mean? So you think about it, you think it's a blessing. And you go, because for one, right, you don't have to tear out a door. So I mean, hell yeah. I mean, that rock on, baby. I mean, so you ain't got to tear out a door. Typically the builder knows what they're doing, right? Especially if you've already gone behind them a couple times. So they already know what they're doing. And you show up, right? You bada bing, bada boom, you put the door in, right? You're good. But the pay can be a little bit delayed. And all it takes is for you to be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 doors deep with this customer or this builder. And all of a sudden they pull the plug. We got a builder. He's kind of a shyster around here. And I wanted to do work for him. And he had me look at a little gate and I charged him like, I didn't even get to charge him. I told him, I said, well, it's like, I was trying to get in with him, right? Trying to do the hook and bait. And I said, hey, I said, well, I can, I said, we can replace the gate for 600, or I said, I can repair it for 200. And he just acted like, oh, he just acted like he was God, the arms and everything. I'll have to think about that. And I'm like, it's $200, dude. I'm like, you're driving a brand new, truck and you got all these, well, he still kept using whoever. It was kind of a bigger company. And I found out through the grapevine, through the excavator, and a builder, or not a builder, a like designer for him, that he was screwing people over in a sense. So he started having to go out farther and farther and farther to find subs. And that explains, because I seen a house being built and I thought, man, this guy's like, these people are like an hour and 15, hour and 30 minutes one way. And I thought, we got plenty of guys that do excavating in the town. And after I heard that, I said, oh, he's burned his bridges so many times that he's moved out. And so that's just something that you guys have to remember. Just because somebody, I was guilty of this myself, right? Just because somebody calls you, don't just assume, oh, it's the best job ever, and it's God sent. You know what I mean? Because you always have to kind of, hey, I know who used to work for you, or why are you calling us? It's not that you need to turn them away, right? You can always play ball a little bit, but when it comes to being, points, or we're counting points here, when it comes down to money, all right, how are we going to run business here? You got to make, are you going to give me half down? Oh, I didn't have to do that with the last guy. And you have to make that decision. Well, I need final payment. I need final payment when the job's complete. I don't leave the job site until you either bring me a check or we get final payment through whatever, Venmo, I don't know, credit card, something. Just things to consider. You know what I mean? Because like I said, when I first started out, I was billing everybody, and oh my gosh, was that a nightmare? You just spend hours and hours going back, looking at invoices, and well, this person still didn't pay. Call them on the phone. I mean, you're sitting there going, I need a full-time secretary right there just to call. I can't afford a full-time secretary, but I need a full-time secretary. So you figured out, like, this is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, you don't leave the grocery store without paying, right? Well, I did my service. I'm not leaving until I get payment, and you got to kind of stay on that. That says, yeah, they built it in the car remotes, can be a real pain. That's for sure, man. Don't have to deal with it often, but some cars have MyQ and some run HomeLink. Yeah, man. Some don't. Oh man, I tell you what, I remember Tanner. I don't know if I told the story. I remember this. I'll make it kind of brief. I remember this guy had a Jag, right? He had really nice cars. He was a how do I paint the picture? He was a black man. Nice guy, right? But I mean, he's like the roller, right? He's got all the bling. He's got the Jag, right? And I remember he wanted us to program it to his car. And like, I mean, it's like the steering, or the shifter knob, comes up like automatically when you put the key. And I told my business partner, Tom, I told him, I don't want to get in that car. He's like, oh, I do. He's all excited, right? And I'm thinking, I'm like sitting there patting his butt down and everything. I'm like, you ain't got nothing sharp on you, do you? No zippers, nothing, no screwdriver in the back. And I mean, this thing's all leathered out. So he gets in there, whatever, he gets it programmed. We'll come to find out that's when HomeLink, I think it was HomeLink, was having issues with the car manufacturers, and they ended up stuff wasn't communicating. So we got it to Link, and then we got another car, right? Because it was a two-stall garage. And I still remember um, I got this letter from LiftMaster that said, you cannot link two cars to this, whatever, was a repeater or something. And I'm sitting there reading it. I'm like, I did. It worked just fine. LiftMaster. you know, well, like a couple days later, right, I get a phone call and he's like, hey, he's like, my kid's car quit working, and I'm like, oh, here we go. That was right. LiftMaster was right. Dang it. So of course I had to go back there, and what a nightmare. I'm sitting there explaining, and this guy, I did try to sell them. They were nice belt drives. I mean, they were the top of the top for LiftMaster. And he's like, I thought you sold me the best. I mean, you know how it goes, right? No understanding. Just like, look, dude, I did sell you the best. Here's the problem. The auto manufacturer with, LiftMaster, they're having some, or HomeLink, they're having some kind of glitch right now or some kind of issue. Somebody doesn't want to pay. It's lobbyist. Thanks, LiftMaster. Thanks, lobbyist, for screwing my life. Like, why couldn't you just have the remote? And then the problem is, like, a lot of that HomeLink and stuff, um, it's delayed. So like with older people, they have a hard time with it. So I really always push, like, if I see they have like they have a remote, I'm always like, oh, here's your new remote. Like, like I see the like HomeLink or whatever, and I'm like, I'm not even telling them, because if they're used to a remote, the remote is really the best way to go. Because of course, with the LiftMaster at the time, it's hooked into an outlet. If the outlet goes dead, so the power goes out, you couldn't use your battery backup. So now you're supposed to still keep the regular remote in the glove box. Oh man. So I ended up, just what a pain. What a pain with something like that. I had another guy too. I did a long ways away. And I remember I still remember he had a Cadillac, I think it was, and I took out a Chamberlain, an older Chamberlain, probably in the 80s or something. It was built. And I remember I give him the new one and he's like, well, can I program this to my car? And I'm like, I'm like, no. And he's like, wait a minute. He's like, my other opener is like 20 years old. It worked, links to my car. And you're telling me this new one won't? That's why I bought this. And I'm like, so I try to do the PR, right? I called and stuff. And I was like, well, they said yours didn't qualify. So you got to pay the $40 for shipping or something. And I mean, the guy he's a big dude too. And he's like looking at me like, are you screwing with me? Just get out of here. I ain't paying another $40, and I didn't even want nothing to do with it. Right. But what a stinking nightmare, man. And it's like, how darn these manufacturers, do they not understand what they are doing to us in the field right now? They're killing us. So not fun. Oh man. My PTSD is kicking in. If I start twitching. Says, yeah, built in, just see here. What's Mr. Caleb say here? It's kind of a cool way if it's Caleb with a K. That's cool. I started an overhead door business this year. How do you haul 18-foot doors in your van? That's a great question. I like it. So honestly, there was a couple ways you can do it. For us, I think here in Michigan, if I am correct, I'm not an attorney, so don't take this. And obviously your state and everything's different. I think we can only go technically 3 feet out the back of the van without it being flagged. I think that's what I remember because a guy came back one day and he was upset. He was very grumpy and he was like grabbing red flags. And I'm like, what's up? Why are you back? He's like, I got pulled over by a state trooper. I'm like, ooh. And I'm like, yeah, and he should do it anyways. I mean, I always do it, right? I'd rather be over than under. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to get pulled over. You know what I mean? I don't need a cop going, do I smell something? I go, yeah, it's my armpit. Ah, it smells like weed. Think we need to pull you out. You been drinking? Do I smell alcohol? Nope. That's my mouthwash. I'd rather stay away from it. But anyways, with our vans, a couple ways. If you don't have the the safety rack in there, or if you do have the safety rack, which you should have, and just the centerpiece is gone, you can normally slide that up there, which gets you another foot or two. Um, or what I kind of learned over the years is you can buy an extended van. So we have two at the shop. We have one that's kind of the standard, and then we have one that I think it's either a foot or two longer, and the guys really like it. I think it's a little bit bulky of a van. It's a little bit longer. But I know the tech that drives it seems like he really enjoys it. He's never complained. He's never like, oh, I want to take the other van that's shorter. But I just haul them. You know what I mean? If they're 18 long, in a van at least. Otherwise, I built a little skinny trailer one time that was 20 foot. So I would always recommend, you make your trailers, whatever you got, do 20 foot because typically, how this goes. If it's a 16-foot door, right, it's normally, 6, 8 inches, 9 inches, just say a foot longer, for the torsion tube. So it's just nice to have a 20 because if you get something that's 18, you can fit that. And I've had a haul 20 something too, anyways. So just, but like I said, you could always too send me a picture through an email of what you got. But maybe you got an Astro van. Are you using a minivan? Maybe you got a minivan. Minivan would be tough. But I guess if it's too long, you can always just get a hitch extender if you got a hitch. If you don't feel comfortable with it, there's always a way. There's always a way. Oh, let's see here. What else do we got started? But that's cool that you started overhead door. I wonder how is it going? You making some money? Raise. I'm gonna call you Raise because that's your last. Because I don't know if I could say the rest. But thanks, Dave. No problem. Just here for you guys. Like I said, got a question? Send them. Like I said, I'll help you out best I can. I want you guys to do good. I need somewhere to go to work. Retirement, I don't know if retirement's all cracked up to what it's supposed to be. You're more busy. Let's see, Kayla. If you can cut the doors and what is this, Tanner? Cut the doors in half. Pretty good. Just okay. We're gonna have to get rid of Tanner. Oh man, cut the doors in half. Don't be saying stuff like that, man. That's like that one guy I had that ripped the metal off. He'd be doing stuff like that. I ripped it in half. I figure it's fine. I got tape. Top. Oh, good, man. Tanner's got, I'm telling you guys, like I said, to me, it's an ego thing. I don't know if I could pull, I can't, no, I can't click on it or pull it up. It'd mess up my screen. I just had it on a video. I was watching these guys. They were doing a barnuminium house or something. And anyways, the garage door guy shows up, right? I think it was like A1 or something. There's, of course, like, I don't know which A1. There's a million of them, right? Like affordable door and gates. There's a million of those too. And I seen the guy up on the ladder. He had a ladder rack on his truck, right? And I see the guy standing on the rails of that truck, and I'm like, oh my gosh! Like all I'm thinking about is I've done that, and that's so dangerous. I cannot tell you, especially if you're in northern climates. With the snow, all it takes is even some wet boots, and man, all of a sudden you hit your knee. I mean, it's not good. Anything elevated in the garage door business is like horrible. I mean, it's just like having a garage door stuck in the open position. We all know that. It's horrible. It's like, now how do I get this down? I mean, this thing's a freaking guillotine. So I still remember with my stepdad, we were doing garage doors and I remember it was ice, the whole parking lot. We got some kind of weird rain, freezing rain, whatever. And I mean, we're holding these garage doors, and I remember the windows blowing. We're trying to put them on my truck. My truck was a whatever F-250 or something like that, super big. I remember we're like we're flying, across the parking lot. We're just holding on the door, and I'm like, "Don't let it go, don't drop it." And we get to where we stop, and it's like, "You good? Yeah, I'm good." And you start tippy toeing back, and it's like, I mean, it was up way too high. I remember I had to take I think it was even the secretary, and I mean, I was kind of like, I got that pride where I was like, I can do this, I can do this, and I think it was 18. They were 18 wide. I don't know how tall. I think it was like only 18 by 7. And I'm thinking about it, and I kept thinking about it, and I kept thinking about it, and I thought, "I don't know how in the hell I'm gonna get this off my truck without damaging it. I cannot lift 2 sections at a time." And I was thinking, even if I take 1 and I have a jiggle to it, right, while it's in that position, the flat position, I could crease this door. And I just traveled all the way up there, and now I get it off in front of the customer, and I crease it, and then it turns into, "Why didn't you bring help?" Well, because everybody's out making money, and I'm just the only one left. So I had to bring out the secretary at that point. I mean, there's just no way. But if they were turned up sideways in a van where it's, the gut, I could have done it. And I don't have to worry about if I'm jiggling it or whatever, because it's up sideways. You know what I mean? Like that. And so it's safe. But if it's over, I need a second person. I tell you what, when she grabbed that second end, I thought she was going to go down like a bag of potatoes. I mean, she just, oh my gosh. And I'm like, please don't drop it. Please don't drop it. Because I know what the recourse is. So, yeah. What's to say? Are the van racks any taller than the average truck rack? Um, you're 15 width rack, but I can see where a van would be more convenient. So I feel like the answer to this is a van rack's taller. I feel like I want to say yes to a certain degree. And the reason I say that is because they're arched. The van racks, they're normally tipped, and that's where your ladders go. And then in the center is where we put our tube that holds all our stuff. We put struts in there. Well, this is at least what I used to. So I'd put a couple struts, right? So this is a good little pointer for you guys. If you put a tube on your truck, which I always recommend, um, I'd put 2 struts in there. I did a 2-inch, and then I did a 3-inch, and I did 16-foot long. And excuse me, what I would do is I looked at it this way, right? It costs me so much money to go back to that shop because I don't know where I'm going to be. You know what I mean? I could be 15 minutes away. I could be an hour and 15 minutes away. And there's certain things in the garage door business, like struts, garage door struts. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Go across the garage door, gives them strength. I can't make that. Like, I cannot make that. Like, I can make rollers in a sense, right? Like, I can find some. I can use metal. Like, I've mixed them before. I've used metal rollers. I've used nylon. I've done nylons in the corners, and I've done metal in the middle. And the customer don't even care. And I'm like, yeah, I did. Blah, blah, blah. I don't even normally tell them. I never get called out. But like a strut, yeah, I've used angle iron too when I was really desperate. But that looks pretty ghetto. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always like, I don't sleep good at night when I do that. So I look at it like this. And then I was even starting to even carry, because once in a blue moon, I'd come across it. I was almost going up to 18 inches, or 18 inches, 18 feet. So, like, kind of the same thing, right? Your tube on your truck needs to be kind of basically 20 foot. You know what I mean? And so I looked at it like it was a cost that's gone. I don't care, right? It's going to cost the customer. I'd tell them, say, hey, you need a strut. Your opener whack the top. It's going to be 50, $60 or whatever, right? Because I'm going to chop up a hole, even if it was a small door. I didn't care. At least I had it. That was a big thing. I cut it, right? And it seemed like, what was it, the 18s? Seems like if you cut the 18s, I could still make it an 18. Like, I could still keep it and use it somewhere else. But 16s, I couldn't. Um, and then that way, if I just came across those darn doors, because they're getting to be more common in our area, 18 instead of 16. So I'd carry two struts, 2 inch, 3 inch torsion tube. Probably do the same thing. It was the same concept to me, 18-foot long. And then I'd normally carry two residential sticks of angle and two commercial sticks of yeah, two commercial sticks of angle. And then I was a little bit of a spoiled guy. Well, I don't want to say that, but I ran into a lot of problems. So I would keep a one piece of white weather seal up there, I think typically 16. And that was just to get me out of a pinch and you got to keep it wrapped. It's hard to keep them nice. You might have to rotate them out eventually, but the reason is because once in a while, right, something gets missed in a detail or you break a piece of weather seal, you go out there and you got that one piece of weather seal you need. Because I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a door, and even if it's a colored door, I typically try to bring an extra piece. Like we'd have some at the shop. I didn't care. I brung them because it just never fails, right? You sit there and you measure it 3 times, and all of a sudden somebody's talking to you, and you're, yeah, yeah, oh yeah. The customer comes out, boy, it looks good. Yeah, yeah. Cut it. Oh, yeah, whatever. And you start nailing it, and you're like, what the? Why am I a foot? What the? So if you got a piece of weather seal with you, if you're working with a guy or you make that cut and you go, that looks like crap, man, it's 2 inches short. I can't live with that. Or it breaks or any situation of that nature. You just got it. You know what I mean? So I always like to look a piece of weather seal on my truck, up in my tube. And I think we upgraded. We used to have 4 inch. 4 inch is really tight. So we went to the 6 inch, and then you can buy the caps. And the reason you got to be careful is that if you play around with the plastic caps, you can blow them out. I've done it. It's not fun. Done it too many times, actually. A couple of the guys did it too. So you got to be careful because you'll send metal through somebody's back windshield. Do do do. So yeah. Hey, Mr. Rich. It's always good to see you. Got the cheers. Let's do the cheers. Got the red cup. All right. So got an ice cube with that one. Vans are the best. So I'll never go back to a truck. Everything is inside. God bless you. Out. If the elements, in my opinion, holds much more, much long day, throw everything. Yep. That's it, man. That's it. The van is the way to go. I cannot tell you, especially if you're running a business or you're even getting into the business, you're going to have days where you're just, you're beat ass tired. And there's nothing like just telling the guy that's with you, right? There's like if you have to work with somebody, you have to manage a business. It becomes, it is so stressful. So stressful. You're already dealing with the phone. You're already dealing with the customer. This one's ticked off. This one you got to get to tomorrow morning early. This one you still got to go to. You got to measure up. There's nothing better than just going, hey, bud, and the guy's like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And you're like, just throw the crap in the van. Just stuck it in there and we're going to leave. And you can just go whipping down the highway. You can go down the back roads, whatever you got to do, right? And nothing's blowing out. That is no plastic, no foam, no little banding straps, just no hardware boxes. Just throw it in there. I will deal with it later because, like I said, when it comes to the garage door business, you only have so much time. So you're just trying to jam everything. Who cares about that van being perfect, right? Especially when you're hustling and making money. So in a truck, you can't do that. You know what I mean? Everything's elevated, so you're wearing out your body. You just repetitions, man. Repetition. Every time you got to get up in that truck, right? You got to climb in the tailgate. You gotta get up on that ladder rack. You know what I mean? And I honestly think I really believe it's a macho. I don't see where a truck can outdo a van, except for maybe one, they got a bigger motor. If you're pulling some heavy loads like all the time, like you're basically a truck driver now, or you need 4-wheel drive, and I ain't gonna lie, I was right there. Or I guess another reason is you're using it for double duty. I don't recommend it. I'd rather buy a cheaper van and have that thing always set up than to try to do a truck again and do double duty because it's a nightmare. The kids they make a mess in the back with Skittles. They got cereal everywhere. You got a baby seat in there. Then you got to take the baby seat out. Then you got to put the tools back in. it just turns into, maybe even, um, if you got to haul guys like crew, okay, and a big trailer, yeah, then I mean that makes sense to me. But most time for the service guys, you only need, in garage doors, with what I kind of deal with in that, you only need two guys. You're not taking a big crew, you know. And if when those days do come, you're better off either just renting or have one of the guys that have a vehicle and say, look, hey man, I'll give you some gas money. Hey, I'm just gonna drive with Johnny or whatever. You just you just meet us up at the job site, if that makes sense. So you just don't need to be the savior. That's what I always was like, well, I got to provide the truck. You know what I mean? I got to have it so the guys can ride with me. Honestly, it's more liability. You know what I mean? Because now, um, you get into an accident, you got the whole crew in there that you just messed up. Where, maybe if Johnny was driving separate, it's his own vehicle, and maybe something, God forbid, does happen to you. You know what I mean? And at least it was on you. You didn't have a bunch of distractions. Just a lot of little things you got to think about. But everything's doable. Like I said, but when it comes to those vans, man, they rock. They're cheap. They're, especially if you deal like a lot of the Chevy ones. We've had pretty good luck with the Fords too. I've been surprised. Um, None of them blew a transmission out. Nothing. I think the Chevys are a little bit stronger, in my opinion. I still like the GMC. I still miss my Savannah. That one was a beast, and they had a lot of miles on it. It had the 6 liter, so it was a good powerhouse. A little thirsty, but not too bad. Not, it's a van, or it's a V8. So, but yes, everything in the outside is in. That's huge. You can use the bathroom. You guys ever try to use the bathroom in a truck? Just asking. I think I did once, and it was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever done. I basically had the emergency to go, number two, let's just say. And it was the most disgusting thing because there's like no room to air, and you're sitting and your head's like up against the, you know what I mean? Like you're gasping for air with the back window. Oh my gosh. There's no privacy. Like people are driving, like man, you can, it's dark back there, especially if the windows are wrapped or you just don't have that many windows. You got a little privacy. Knees work in there too. You can get on your knees and, what I used to do is take your wife's, um, what are they called? Fabric softener, the ones that got the beads, because it's got a nice big top to it, you know, because I know you guys are large and in charge, but you get a little whiff, which is pleasant for the first moment. Don't breathe afterwards, but you can, when you have to do your thing, it's got a nice sealed lid, screw on lid or whatever, make sure that baby's tipped up right. And then, make sure that thing gets out that night. You take care of it. Don't leave it at the customers. Don't leave it at the customers. I remember, trail cam in the back. Yeah. No, I found this on YouTube. I just kind of threw it up there. I didn't know I didn't want to have something that had a lot of distractions, so I had to be pulled away. Otherwise, I would have put up like something for garage doors or something, but it's tough. You know what I mean? When you don't have somebody, when you're just a one-man band, hey, I see. Hey, don't forget, if you guys don't mind, throw a like on there. Just give it a thumbs up, if you would, please. So I want to tell you this about the whole bathroom. Garage doors, employees, right? Oh man, this is embarrassing. But I remember, I'll never forget this. When I was kind of starting out, even to today, sometimes I get pulled away for businesses and whatnot. But I remember I was up with my dad, right? And I value the time I get to spend with my dad hunting and stuff, right? And I get this call from a customer. And I remember this customer called. He was very upset. And he says, I need somebody. I need somebody to come here right now. And I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, like, hey, dude, you're talking to the owner. Like, like I don't know what you got going, but nothing's gonna happen right now. It's the weekend. It's opening of rifle, everything, hunting season. And he says, I go, okay. I go, well, what's the problem here? And he goes, somebody peed in a cup. And I'm like, geez, now here's the thing. I don't know if it's true or not, right? I don't have any symptoms or know of anybody in my work that's been doing that, or this is a second or third call. And I go, yeah, I know who it is. It's Johnny, that stinking Johnny. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, in my mind, I'm sitting here, I'm going, okay, it's pee in a cup. It's in the garage, right? It's probably on a wall or something on a open something. Like, I understand. I get it, right? It's not right. It's not right. It's not right. It's disgusting. It's like, I understand that. But for you to call me with that tone right now is not going to resolve the problem. Like, you literally think I'm just going to stop come on, dude. So I remember my dad, I get off the phone, I'm irritated, right? And I told him, I said, well, we'll just have to call you back Monday. Like, and he's like, I don't know, he's hung up or something. Don't worry about it. And I'm sitting there like, and your mind starts just going on la la land. Like, did I handle that right? Should I have like, what should I have done? Should I have called 911 and like told them, hey, we got pee in a cup. It's a hazardous material. Like, you need to get somebody out there now. I mean, and that's the other thing. I thought, what if it's Mountain Dew? And this guy's assuming, because like, I don't know, I'm assuming a cup like from a restaurant. And I'm thinking, how does he even know it's our guys? He didn't say, oh, I got cameras and I seen your guy do it and stuff. Anyways, I get off the phone and I'm upset, and I'm just like, whatever. My dad said, well, did you tell him that the guy crapped in the bushes too? I said, no, I didn't think of that one. I said, I should have said that. I said, got a real good reaction from him. Oh man. So, but those are things that you guys could experience in the business. And that's why I want you guys to kind of have an open mind. And sometimes, maybe if you could push product, that might be a better avenue down the road. I understand right now, maybe you're growing, you gotta collect that money, you gotta do everything you can to hustle, maybe you just jumped in and you don't have any other income, um, but can you see where, like, if you're distributing a product out, what I mean? You're sending it out the door. You don't have that liability in a sense. You don't have that, oh, I just rear-ended somebody. Oh, the door just fell out of the truck. Oh, I dropped the opener. It falls on the customer, right? And things happen and they're going to have problems too. But, you know, I'm sorry to hear that, bring it back and we'll see what we can do to fix it. You see what I'm saying? So it's just something to always kind of keep in the mind, you know, torpedo tube. Oh, workplace. What is the worst workplace injury that has happened on your jobs? Anyone lose a finger? That is a good one. Was it Tristan? Howdy, Tristan. Glad you're here. So the worst one, I think I got a video. It's quite a ways back. Um, was the one with me cutting my knee with a skill saw. And it was pretty embarrassing because I you guys have run businesses for multiple years will probably understand this. But somebody from the outside that doesn't run a business, you go, that's the stupidest. Like, you're just an idiot. And I ain't gonna lie, it was my fault. I was an idiot. I screwed up, right? I mean, it was totally. But sometimes in business, you get pushed so hard. I mean, it is unbelievable how hard you get pushed that nobody sees. I understand it. And I believe that's why you guys are here, because you understand it too, or you're trying to get knowledge to understand it, or you're just trying to do better. So anyways, I remember the day it was a snowy day. It was cold, rainy, snow. And I was the one plowing the shop at the time. And we got this, sometimes on garage doors, they'll do that really hard cardboard. And I feel like this was a different even kind of door. So it was like double or triple the thickness. And it was for the edges, right? It's that L-shaped looking stuff. And our garbage can was full. We had I think it was a 2-yard dumpster that would come. And this is the things, right? Looking back, you go, wow, it was stupid. But anyways, it was full. And the guys, they filled it up, whatever, with just, we're slammed, man. We're busy. So it's full. It's over full. And I was going to throw them. I think somebody threw them behind the dumpster or in front. And I thought, man, that's horrible. Because when we get the next snowfall, I guarantee I'm going to plow these things into a pile. And then I thought, oh, well, then who's going to pick them up in the spring? right? Me. And I thought, I don't want to do that. You know what? I can burn those. I'll take them home. I had a wood stove or something. I don't know if I had the wood stove or fireplace at the time. I said, you know what? I'll cut them up and I'll take them. I'll take them home. I'll get rid of them. And then they're done, right? It's done. They don't have another mess. And that's one thing with the garage door business, right? Any contractor business that a lot of guys don't see is that you're always dealing with, I mean, am I wrong with saying this? But you're always dealing with a damn mess. I mean, your van's a mess. It's, you think about for the customer, they got it made, right? And I understand they're paying us money and paying for the service, but we're always a mess, the mess. Then you take it to the house, you take it to the shop, you take it, it's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. That's what they pay us for. So anyways, I'm cutting this up, right? And I kicked the blade, right? And this is a gear headed saw. And I was cutting it. I was on a bucket or something, right? And I'm cutting them in pieces, right? And I remember I had insulated pants, the thicker ones. And I thought, boy, if that blade catches my pants, that would really suck. Well, that saw was so heavy. And I remember cutting that cardboard up, and I know it sounds funny, right? Cutting cardboard. But anyways, that thing caught my pants, went right up the old leg, and man, she gashed that knee open. And I remember I kept telling myself, I was sitting there, right? Well, Cap, he was in the office doing something. He was on the phone ordering stuff or whatever. And I remember, man, I threw that saw down, and I'm like, I effed up. I effed up. I'm sitting there telling myself, I could see blood everywhere. I can see my knees cut open, So luckily I go in there and I'm like, he's talking on the phone. He just looks at me, and I'm like, dude, get off the phone now. And he's like, what? I'm like, get off the blanking phone, like I'm like trying to point. He's like, whoa. He goes, I gotta let you go. And the person's like, really? And he's like, yeah, really, I gotta let you go. So we hop in the vehicle, we take off. And I remember, I'm pulling my belt off. I'm trying to do like a tourniquet on it, and it's throbbing, right? And I'm kind of feeling like, am I gonna black out? And I remember I told him, I'm like, drive to the biggest building. When he's sitting there kind of doing the, and I'm like, you all right? And I'm thinking he's going to pass out on me. And then we're both going to be stuck on the side of the road and I got to call an ambulance. So I think that was one of the worst. I did have a guy that was leaning over a trailer one day. I don't know how he did it, but he broke a rib, putting a garage door like in a trailer that had a wall. I don't know why I didn't let go of it. It felt like it was pain or it just was an accident. Things happen. But I've had numerous of things. I've had, nothing where there was a severe injury. I've had a guy that rear-ended somebody one time. The kid, first time we let him drive, right? He's already got his driver's license. He's all good, right? But it's the first time we let him drive. And I noticed that he was always on his phone. He was taking selfies a lot. And I was told by other guys. So my guess is that he was probably on his phone when he rear-ended that person. So that's always a fun phone call, you know? And there's just so many situations that you just, like I said, for a lot of you guys, you know, don't take me wrong. Don't take me wrong. I mean, I am super blessed. I'm super lucky to have the crew that I do. They work very hard. They're awesome people, but it took a long time to ever get there, right? And it will always change, right? It's always evolving. People will come, people will go. You hope they stay if they're good, but it's like when it comes to the workers, the work stuff is easy, but when it comes to that workers, all of a sudden you got to pay workman's comp. Now you got their personal problems are kind of your problem. You got they're not showing up. When you go out and sold all this work, it's very tough. You don't you're sending people out in your property, vehicles that are marked with your name, your business name, whatever on them. You're entrusting that they go out and do a good job. They don't pee in cups. They don't cuss at the customers, say things they shouldn't say, do things that they shouldn't be doing, especially with technology now, on their phone while they're driving. I mean, it's definitely gotten tougher, I feel like, so you gotta, you know, you know, says, what's it say? Tanner say, we are a big farm slash egg area. Ooh, we do bunch. Oh, 20. Nice. Up to 40. Holy moly. But snowmobile trailers work great. I would agree. The snowmobile trailers you can find them pretty cheap. They're pretty inexpensive. Relatively cheap. overall marketplace. Yeah, marketplace you can find them because you get all those people that buy them, and now their buddies don't ride or they can't ride anymore, or they just getting out of it and they just want to unload this stuff. So um, those trailers. The only thing I ever had flat was, and they're flat. Yep. The only thing I ever had with a snowmobile trailer. This was my own fault too. I remember I was putting I put two skids of concrete on a double axle trailer, not a triple. Stupid, right? Oh, it can hold it. It can hold it. Well, it made it fine until I hit a curb. It was my own fault. And man, that thing was smoking. So the only thing I never liked about the snowmobile trailers was the small tires. My first trailer I built, the axle was a snowmobile trailer, and we put so much weight in over time, the axle had a little bend to it, so it'd wear out tires like crazy, but it seemed like I could find them really cheap. Well, I never forget the day. It's one of those days we're burned out, right? We get a blowout on the trailer and we're running them bald. We know, looking back, it was really stupid, right? But at the time you don't have no money. You gotta run everything until it blows up. And so I remember the one pops on us and we got a spare mounted to the front of the board, right? And I'm walking around doing the jack, whatever, and I'm like, we're all bummed out because, for one, I got my business partner. He's absolutely just ticked off that we're working late. I mean, he's like, I'm ready to go home. And it's like, yeah, dude, I am too. But, we got to get this, drop this door off, whatever the case may be. I walk around, I look at the other tire, and I'm like, I said, hey, man, I said, you ain't going to like this. But the other tire looks like it's about ready to pop too. And he's like, what are we going to do? I said, I don't know. I said, and sure enough, about 3 miles down the road, all of a sudden that tire blew too. So now we had to abandon the trailer. Um, I remember it was funny. We just had to abandon. It's like if I wouldn't have said nothing, maybe it wouldn't have happened. But since I said something, it's like I had that in the universe. I learned that from a guy that used to work with me. I'd always say something, and he'd go, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, Dave." He goes, "Don't put that out in the universe." So I always use that now. I always think about I put it out in the universe. I think there is truth to it. Man, those big doors, though, Tanner. We got a guy around here. He pretty much works all farm. And I tell you what, I think about that and I go, like, I assume you got to kind of be fussy on certain days. If it's super windy out, like, how do you, like, I couldn't even imagine, like, with two guys, maybe got three guys. And do you work on a lot of dirt floors? Because he does. I mean, he does a ton. I mean, because it's just, they're going to use it for whatever, cows to, they're going to use it for goats, whatever. Uh, I don't know. I don't know, Tristan. It says you could take a crap in the back of a truck as easy as a van. I think it depends on how you're looking at it. Like for me, right? Because unless you got like a big topper, I look at it like this, right? When I did a truck, I had an insert, so I can't go in the back of the truck, right? I'm out in public. You know what I mean? Like I have no privacy. Like because you know how it is. Sometimes you got to go in a parking lot. Sometimes it's at a customer's. It's out in the boonies or something. But you got a few minutes to get away. You know, at least like in my truck when I was I like I said it was an emergency. Had to go. I was doing everything I could. I had to like flip up the seat. I think the back seat or something so I could get the like bucket lower and you're crouched in there where like a van you got that whole middle space and you got a little more air floating around you, let's just say. And you got walls all the way around you that you can literally lock. I know you could I guess I could do it in the truck, but it's just like all I kept thinking is going, oh my gosh, what if a cop pulls up here? Oh, what's going, I don't, you ever just have like it's either going to go in your pants or it's got to go in a bucket. Well, that's where we're at. And I knew going in when I was working that day, it was one of those days I was thinking, man, I'm not feeling good. But you know how you try to like hit everything you can. You're like, do I stop? No, I think I'm good. And then all of a sudden, oh, I'm not good. I think it happens to all of us at one point or another. But I still like the van. The van was just, you know, plus it's a little more primitive. Like the truck, my truck had carpet and stuff in it. So it was always like, gotta be a little careful. Let's see. I think you could just look really weird. Dude, it might be put on some list. Yeah. Oh Oh man, you rock, buddy. One day I'll send you a box of cigars. Awesome. I'm all about that. I like a cigar once in a while. It's funny. Do you deal with what is this called? Abstros insulated garage doors. I don't even think I've ever heard of them. I don't even know Tristan, where's that at? Where's that company located or anything? I can't say I've ever heard of that one. It's Mr. Julio got says, are you breaking down estimates and invoices for your commercial clients? I've noticed that when I list everything and provide a detail, I just find prices. This little heart thing gets in the way for some reason. I don't know why. So it's like I need somebody to write another comic to get that heart thing. Something I list a price, everything I provide in detail. I just find final price. I'm going to say they don't question the total amount. I don't know about that. So the only ones I ever really typically would break down um, for prices was a lot of times like insurance. I always know right away from insurance companies, they're going to make you, they're going to want it broke down. Then you better anticipate they're going to call you and also possibly, um, ask you to maybe do it for a little bit cheaper. I've had them do that too. They kind of wheel and deal you. You just got to use your best. If you're if you need the work and you can do it, and make money, then go for it. But I don't typically break the problem I see when I break stuff down to some degree is they might they might see something. Okay, so like let me think about this. I had a job years ago that I did down in it was in Battle Creek, Michigan. It's all of I don't know how far it is. It's like 2 hours plus. It could be 2 to 3 hours away. I think I bid it through a builder exchange or something like that. And anyways, we got the job, right? Well, I was really green at how to price things. Well, they got me. Well, I ended up pricing my doors at a certain price, almost like my cost. I didn't really know how to mark them up or something or make it look goofy or whatever. But I had all my money built in on the openers. And so we go down there and this job already turns into a stinking nightmare. They had full vertical. Well, when you started climbing the wall, the wall was kicked in like 2 or 3 inches or something like that. So I'm like, how the heck am I going to mount my track on here? So I talked to the builder, right? Finally, I had another guy that with me that was older than me, and luckily he kind of like he's been around this whole building stuff, so he was kind of my coach a little bit. And he's like, "We got, this ain't us." He's like, "We ain't furring all this crap out," And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So we go and talk to him, and we're talking to the welder, and the welder guy's like, "Well, obviously that's going to be a change order," and I'm like, "Oh, that ain't my problem. Like, that's between you and the builder." Anyways, we get it solved. But I had all my money built into the openers. And so I guess in a nutshell, like they seen that or something went awry. So, anyways, we do these doors. The doors were a nightmare. I bought a welder for this job. I ended up I bought like a DeWalt Impact because it was like I wasn't that good of a welder, and it's complicated, right? You guys know how it is when you're in the thick of things. It's a nightmare. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, so now it's like, well, I can weld. I got a stick welder. I gotta bring it up in the lift with me, right? It's just a little suitcase one, but now I got a power pack. I got to either, so I got to buy extension cords. Um, then I bought this DeWalt, right? Well, then I had to buy a certain bit from Fastenal because, back then we didn't have the power of the internet. So I had to go to Fastenal. I'd order this little bit so I could put these certain tap cons in there because the steel is super thick. And I was like, I don't know if I want to weld it or if I'm going to tap it, but I need to have both options. I cannot have this shut down because we would go down there. We'd stay for like the whole week, and we'd stay in a hotel. And that ain't much fun. I mean, and we'd work, the, 10, 12 hours a day. And, you go back and it's like, it's a hotel and it's like air conditioning, you take a shower and it's like, what do you want to watch on TV? It's not a very fun environment. So anyways, we do the work, right? And I remember one of them, we had to go outside. They had a big picture window and then they had a big heat duct inside. So we had to, I like go outside in the scissor lift and I had to go through where the window was, and like I'm mounting the springs. I mean, we're doing all stuff that we, unsafe. And I'm like holding it. He's trying to screw it. Well, anyways, for whatever reason, the builder said, we're going to have our guy, we got somebody else that's going to come in and do the openers. Don't worry about it. Are you serious? Like, and then they had a retainer on it, right? So sometimes you got to remember, you do these builders, right? They do hold like 10% for, I don't know what it is, like 6 months or a year. So they'll hold that money back. So, I mean, the job just turned into a stinking nightmare. And in the meanwhile, I remember I had a little Ford Ranger because we wanted to save gas, right? The air conditioner quit working in that truck, and we kept getting stuck on Fridays when we try to go back home. And in this hot summer heat, you know what I mean, with no air conditioning, I mean, the windows are down. I mean, the job was just, and then now they're not doing the openers. I mean, we didn't make hardly any money. If we made any, we might have broke even, but all my money was tied up in the openers. So what I'm getting at is people can itemize, right? You sit in there and you put in certain things or whatever, and they go, we'll have our guy do that. Or, what is this? You know, at least around here, we don't get that very much. I don't get much. We might do like, here's material, and then here's labor, maybe. But typically we kind of, it'll all be spelled out. It'll either be zeros, it won't be all like, here's this. Now I don't think it's like I don't think it's bad, but if your prices change, you know what I mean, then you got to go in, you got to keep changing all that stuff. So it gets to be a little bit time consuming. So, um, that's just me. That's just how we do it. Cause, um, I don't know. It just becomes a pain unless it's insurance. Insurance will do it for it because we know they always make you do it. But it gets to be complicated. People, what's this, $5, $10 for nuts and bolts or blah, 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 or this or that, and people get weird ideas, I think, sometimes. Product list and work done and final price keeps them from taking it to the next guy. Ooh, yes, yes. Or companies to compare. Ooh, this is good. I like this, Tanner. Compare and yep, yep. I'd have to agree with Mr. Rich. I think that's 100% because, um, I still remember we did a gate job, and this is a customer we've had for years. And I think he likes to, kind of test us a little bit, right? Well, he's telling me, they're going to do it for 5 grand. And I said, for what you want, I said, I can't do it. And sometimes, in my mind, what I kept telling myself, I go, all right, well, go ahead and let that my competition, because I know who it is. I know you don't use that competition because their service stinks. They can't do anything like we can, right? When you call, we show up, and we've taken care of you for how long now? Many years. And I thought, all right, well, we're $1,000 difference in price here. And if you want to go with the 5 grand guy instead of 6, that's fine. And he finally came back and he goes, oh, well, I guess they had their numbers off or something when I called them back. And I'm like, now it could have been true, or he could have been yanking my chain. So sometimes I have one builder that would do that. I would ask him, and he might scribble out like the name or something or whatever, but he would actually give it to me. And you know how it is. I can tell if it's a legit, it might have a date still on it and stuff, but I can tell the algorithm of it. If I'm like, all right, this thing is, and sometimes we'd have to eat ramen noodles on that job, basically. But we'd get him on the next ones, right? But he had to please, his bosses because he wasn't the owner, but every once in a while they'd say, hey, we want to get 3 quotes, and we'd have to sweeten our deal up a little bit to make it, look good. And then the next ones we could normally kind of hit our normal prices. And, sometimes it's a very, you play ball a lot. And I think that's something that gets overlooked. Uh, it gets overlooked a lot, how much time. I mean, I can't tell you guys how much time I've spent at night, on big jobs even, and back and forth. with the wife, and it's, well, it needs to be this price. This is really what it should be. I know it seems like it should be in theory and numbers and percentages, but it will not go. And I've had it many times where it's like, okay, we do it that percentage or whatever, like what we think it should be, mark it up 30%. And it's like, you get blowback, and you're like, I've had a guy one time, he's like, you're $10,000 over everybody else. And I'm like, I mean, how do you recoup from that? I mean, it's just like, you're like, yeah. And this guy's providing actually a thicker door, a little bit thicker with actually better R value. Well, let me look at my numbers again here. Oof. And some people will work with you, and that's why I always like loyal customers. Loyal customers are your best friends. As long as all their checks always clear and everything's always on the uppity up, good communication. Loyal customers, man, I'm telling you, they're just such a blessing, because it just takes out so much of that. Every time you deal with somebody new, it's like you got to build that trust. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't really know you, but they can act like they're top dog, right? Well, it's a privilege to work for me. I do 100 homes a month, and it's like, yeah, how many do you really own? How much is the bank funding all this? Are your checks any good? Are you going to stiff me? Cause you already used 5 other garage door guys, and they all got blown up, and I'm just a dummy that's going to play a part of this, you know, you just never know. What's your way of advertising? That's a good one. All right, guys, fill me in on what you guys do. Um, let's see. You know, I'm still a big believer in, I think, the organic. They tell you, yeah, I think it's becoming a money game. I think like Google, um, Facebook, these guys are trying to do money grabs. But I think there is algorithms like with Google if you do it the organic way. Now, I think Google has gotten way more advanced since I started back in '06, 2006. It didn't they send you a piece of mail in the mail, or in the letter, a letter in the mail, and that's how you verified stuff, right? Now, it's like they want you to, you know, it, I think they're getting pickier. I was told not too long ago at one of my seminars, like Google won't even recommend you during certain hours, right? So let's say you're not 24 hours, right? So somebody at 9 o'clock might be going, I gotta call somebody tomorrow. I don't think it's quite there yet, but you might not pop up, right? But if you also don't have the reviews, if you don't maybe have a physical location, I think Google recognizes that. I think they're looking for interaction, obviously, through emails, through people that are in your area, right? That aren't just bogus from, somebody that's, 10 cities, 10 whatever states away. But I think Google's probably your best friend, because you always got to remember, most time with garage doors, people are in panic, right? You're basically a fire extinguisher. You're not important until there's a fire. So, until that spring breaks, until they run into that garage door, and you got to remember that a lot of times, they might be calling, but they might not be. If you're the guy that answers the phone and you're really good at it, or you have it so when your phone rings, it goes to another person and maybe to another person. If they'll wait on that long for how many times it rings or gets back to them, a lot of this stuff can kind of add up, and how good you can kind of persuade them a little bit. Um, but I still think, the vehicles aren't bad, right? I get a little hesitant, because if we go back into another cough syndrome, if you need to go kind of under the radar and you got a truck that's all super wrapped up, you're not going to want to rip that off, at 4 grand a pop or whatever, or a van. I think people can see it that way. I think yard signs are good when you're doing the work, because they sit out there and the wind catches them a little bit. I still like those. If you're super bored, put up signs, on telephone poles. I know Nextdoor has been bugging me more. I didn't really have very good luck with Nextdoor. I even paid, and when I went to do it from a desktop, it seemed like it was really primitive and really not fun. So, but the biggest thing is, if you get out there, word of mouth is always really good. So when you're starting out, you really got to be like really great customer service. And then once you get rolling, I mean, you think about it, and like I said, I've said this before. Most people say, well, if the business, the hardest part is your first, 5 years. If you make it 5 years, it wasn't for me, anyways. It seemed like it was more like 8 years, give or take, somewhere in there. Is when things started seeming like the ball would kind of roll and it could sustain itself, and you weren't so like grinding so hard. So, but the biggest thing is you gotta be I know somebody, right? Competition, right? The guy was going around installing openers, gate operators. He's not real good at it. And, I've gone behind him now. And it's like, they said, yeah, he just says he don't do that anymore. And it's like, so he kind of left you high and dry. And his installs, not enough cement on poles, things of that nature, right? That's the stuff I don't want you to do, because that's the stuff that somebody will go, I'll never use that person, or they'll talk bad. You need to be the one that comes back and says, you know what? Hey, I didn't really know what I know now, or I messed up. You know, that goes so much farther for people than just I don't even do that. That's not even part of my service anymore. Or I can't help you. You know what I mean? And obviously everything's a different scenario. I mean, somebody's being rude, they didn't pay you, whatever. You know what I mean? There's so many variables into it. And so that's why I'm always kind of like some of you younger guys, like I'm like if I was a young man again, I look at my one buddy, right? He runs vending machines. And I mean, this dude is just so chilled, right? And I've been at the commercial places, and I'll see his truck there. He drives a standard truck, right? Just a pickup truck. It's personal. No stickers, no stickers, nothing. No advertising on the trailer. I see this multiple times. Like one's like Little Debbie's. Like I don't know what Little Debbie's got, but I've seen them put that stuff in storage units. Yeah, think about what we're eating. Little Debbie's, Little Debbie. You know, and I've seen them on skids and stuff. But anyways, these guys like they drive like unmarked trucks, right? But this dude's just as chilled as a cucumber. I mean, I go in there and he's just throwing the stuff in his vending machine, and I'm like, dude, I'm like, you're in here checking out the ladies. I'm like, you're in here in the air conditioning. You're in here where the food court, food stuff is. Not always, right? Because it's a factory and stuff. Some areas have a little bit more, but you're kind of in a clean area, right? I gotta go put my little head, down in the corner of this pit right here, where all this dirt and salt and the mice are coming in, the chew holes and the spider webs. And this dude's just standing upright, and he's like shutting his machine. Oh yeah, and he gives it like a little rub. He's like, oh yeah, make me some money, honey. Now trust me, I get that he's gonna, machines break, and I think I didn't ever. Sometimes they do a little bit of a kickback, you know, and trust me, it's hard, right? But I look at that and I go, you're gonna put so much energy maybe into the garage door business, right? And then you got employees, which I mean, he's had some people when he goes on vacation, right? And I don't know all the complex of it, but I look at it and I still think it'd probably be easier. I could be wrong, and you're trying to figure out a little bit what people like, what they buy, but you're building. So now you got something planted here, right? Sure. Let's take this in comparison. He's got a vending machine. I got PMs. So I go in there and do PMs, right? And maybe I'm only doing it for X amount of dollars, really cheap just to keep somebody filled. And they're also finding things, right? Well, I got to also bring in a scissor lift, right? Scissor lifts are very expensive. They're also very dangerous. So somebody's got to run that, right? I got to deal with like the inconvenience of somebody being in the way, a semi truck plugging up the hole where I'm working. I show up whatever the day of, the dock plate won't sit right. My machine wants to roll out the door. You see what I'm saying? I'm sure there's more that I'm not thinking of, but there's a lot of variables to make that. And then maybe you quoted it, right? You told them, well, it's going to be, $800 to replace those springs. Okay. Well, now you're kind of set up like you want to get that done as soon as possible and get out of there, right? And do a, but now you also touched it. Now it throws the cables because of a, you know, employee that's not very nice to the door because he always slams it and it throws the cables off because he slams it so hard. Or he uses what I've seen guys do is use dock plates to actually lift up on the garage door. That's happened before, and I've seen them bust the side locks. And it's somehow I forget how they're throwing the cables, but they would do it by doing that. So you know what I'm saying? Like if you're gonna put that many years and start now, like Cap that runs mine, he's got it made, man. He's we've already built the customer base. Um, it's a running machine, you know what I mean? And not that it's perfect. It's always everything's could always be tweaked and tuned and made better. But I just think about that. Like I think about the realtors, right? Let's use a realtor. So I was telling nephew, I said, hey, I said, go into real estate, buddy. Like because okay, so a real estate agent, right? Sure, you got to go get your license. We can go work under a broker. It's not too hard. You know, you're making a percentage, right? And don't, if anybody, like I said, you got somebody and say, well, here's the problems with that too, or whatever, chime in because I like hearing it. I don't know it all. And but I look at stuff and I go, okay, so you're a real estate agent, right? My real estate agent, when she would come in, right? Um, she didn't have to fix the house, right? She didn't have to clean it. She didn't have to uh fix the roof or mow the grass or anything, right? She comes in, right? She's, oh, you might want to, put a little paint here. And yeah, you might want, but otherwise, oh, this is a really nice place. I think we should. So she's making a percentage, right? She brings in some paperwork, right? Nice, clean paperwork. She does the paperwork with you, right? She lists it, whatever. It sells. It might not sell. She sells it, right? Think about like I've never seen the back of a realtor's. Like I go, like I look at the back of their vehicle and I go, jeez, it's full of tools. I mean, not saying they can't be, right? They might help somebody fix up stuff. What I'm saying though is it's a lot cleaner. But when you deal with garage doors, think about all the stuff. You got to have the truck. Might have to have the building. You got to have somewhere for the semi trucks to come. All she doesn't. She's got a suitcase with paperwork in it. You see what I'm saying? So maybe you want to get into like with a property manager or something and want to start, rubbing elbows because when I look back and I think I go, oh my God, there were so many things I had to purchase. There were so many things I had to maintain, breaks on the weekends for vehicles, right? Because you can't afford to pay the mechanic, right? You got to buy a used vehicle. You can't buy new vehicles because can't afford it, right? It took so much. And then sometimes you're still limited, right? Because I can only do with employees or I can only do so much. But with her, she could just go find probably a bigger client, right? With more money or a bigger house or one on the lake that's cost a lot of money. And she's going to get a percentage off it. And she doesn't, I'm not saying that they don't have a hard job. I mean, they probably pay for people take photos out of their pocket. There is expenses, don't get me wrong, but you think about how clean that is compared to what we get into. And hey, there's a beauty, right? Because I used to pound bumpers, and I hated that job. I said, I'm not doing this. I can't stand being in a building, the same building every day. I probably couldn't even be a framer, or like a house builder because I'd be on the job site. I don't know if I could do that. But, there is a lot of beauty into what we do. We get to travel, we get to see the countryside. It just depends on what you do. And not everybody is going to be a real estate. I get that. But it's just something that I want you to think about that you want things to be working behind you. Does that make sense? If the vending machine, I think about that, right? He's got people putting money when he's not even there. And yes, they can break and they don't, but majority of the time they're working, they're powered, they're in a decent environment. Hopefully, nobody's breaking them, obviously, but it's just you have something working for you where you come in, right? And you always got the chance that, okay, so like for us, right? I've had it happen. You get in with the place, right? You worked really hard. Let's say a commercial client. Now that person leaves, right? They went on to something bigger and better. They retired. They passed away. I remember we used to work for this, we used to work for this one county building. It was a city. His name was Ken. I think it was, I don't know if it was Ken Walters. I can't remember what his name was. Something like that. Start with a W. Super cool dude. And I always remember him telling me, see you, Rich. Glad you're here, bud. Hope you have a good day tomorrow. And, but anyways, he told me one time, I remember he was the guy that told me, right? He goes, my business partner time always wanted to replace garage doors, openers, everything, always, right? If it's broke, you need to replace it. And I remember that guy telling me, I said, here's the thing, Ken. I said, I said, we really need to replace the opener. And we did. It was kind of a rat's nest. It was an old Osco. And I remember him looking right at me and he goes, Dave, I'm going to tell you something. He goes, when it comes to repairing things, I basically got a blank checkbook. He goes, but if I have to replace something, did I say that right? So repair something, he's got a blank checkbook. To replace something, I need 3 bids. And I remember I thought, I don't want that. I don't want him coming in and have to get 3 bids because we're the only door company in here. If he has to get 3 bids, it's going to turn into, 2 other guys are going to come in here, competition. You know how that's going to turn into. It's going to be like, oh, well, we want to get this customer. So, yeah, like, let's do it for nothing. You know what I'm saying? You see how that can kind of happen. So you're always dealing with this ship that's turbulent. You know what I mean? It's never smooth sailing seas. So that's just something I want. Oh, a deer scared me. Came right up to the thing. So it's just something to keep in mind that if you're kind of starting out, like I said, hey, it's not a bad gig. You could start out as a young man. I think it's a very good thing, but you just might want to keep that going instead of being so focused and going, man, I'm doing so good. I gotta get another truck. I gotta get another van. We need to get a scissor lift. It can turn into a trap. I think it's a vortex is what I always call it. All of a sudden you get so busy and then all of a sudden you go, well, you start trying to justify. That's what I did. Right. I got to get that new truck because I can't work on these things anymore. I'm so busy. I got to get this new truck, and then, well, now who you paying, right? You're paying the bank. You get a loan on it. Now you got to have full coverage on it. So it's slow and steady. Really can win the race. Just remember that, don't bite off more than you can chew. That's really, really important because you'll start learning things. You'll start going to the city. You'll start seeing inspections. You'll start getting to know the algorithms of things and going, all right, now I understand how this really works. Like zoning and stuff like that. I had problems with our township would say you don't need a permit for fencing, right? And I had a guy that he was getting RVs stolen, so I put a fence up for him, just a little 4-foot, nothing major. And the township just blew him up, right? They're like, you can't do this, and I'm thinking, hey, we didn't go past the building, like you said, and we don't need a permit. And we need a site plan. And so I went to the builder that I knew and I said, how can they do this? Like, how can they be blowing this guy up about this fence? I say, he's just gotten 3 RVs, he's thousands of dollars out of the hole, And he said, well, they can because of a site plan. He says, that's what they want. They want a site plan. What are you talking about? Like permit? No, they need to see a site plan. So they need to see a fire hydrant on the picture. They need to see where the fence, that's where they can get you. So, so we've had a builder or a customer twice now. The one time he asked me to do a fence for him, I told him, I said, look, I said, we're so busy. I said, we're understaffed right now. I said, I don't have the manpower. I said, to sit here and pull all this permit stuff. I said, so everything's going to have to be, you're just going to have to take care of it. And the thing is that with that customer, they got really, really deep pockets and they're a big powerhouse in our town. And I'm like, you got the muscle and the ability. You got guys in the office, hundreds of them. You guys get whatever you want. You know what I mean? And I'd rather just say I work for you. I work for you guys. I'll put your shirts on if I have to. And so that was all cool. He made everything work. But the next job, I assumed we were still on the same page, right? We went to another property. We installed something, and all of a sudden it came up. It says, "Hey, did you pull the permit?" And I thought, wow, I thought we had this conversation like a year ago that we do work for you, but you take care of all the permitting. Like we are not, well, what came to happen was the electrician was bringing up the red flag, and I knew the guy, the electrician, he's a good dude and everything, but there's a lot of politics that you don't see, especially if you're not in the business and been in the business for a while. He doesn't want his name to turn into mud, right? So he needs to do everything by the book to keep the inspector because he does other jobs that he has to always pull permits. And so I was like, no, I was like, this is not like how, so I completely abandoned the job because I thought this is going to be bad luck if we literally keep going with this because they're going to have some, they always seem like they got to find something, right? We wanted another 2 feet back or something, even though there's an existing fence in front of it. We're going 5 feet behind it. I don't see, we're just making ours a nicer fence. So there's just all these little details that things run into, and I've been to the building things. I've been to the, you know, where you go into these builders or these city municipalities and you go to the meetings and, you know, if you're not a huge infrastructure, it seems like where you have like, 20 guys that are your estimators to go in there and to really look at the job, they got it down so good that they can do it for such peanuts and they got so much manpower that it's almost like you can't even, and you're not reputable with them. You know what I mean? So it might take you a while. You might still get some, but I've had a lot of big jobs too that blown up on me. It turned out bad because it just, you try everything you can, right? But there's only so many hours in a day where your competition, they'll just gang up with 3 other locations, and they got 10, 15 guys there where you're working with 3 or 6. So just things you got to think about in business. So like I said, if you guys got any other questions, throw them out there. Otherwise, I won't stick on here too much longer, probably. I just was rambling away there. What does this one say? Trail cam. Yeah, I already said that one. But yeah, it's just like I said, and these, I think Nathan was the one that mentioned it. He was saying, he was listening on to his way, and I thought, I don't know if they really call this like it's because they're like a podcast. I was like, that's kind of a way to do it. I was like, 'cause you don't need to see my ugly face. You can just listen to this. You throw your headset, throw it on the radio in the vehicle, and listen to some of this content so you can learn a few things. Because, like I said, I've been through the ringers a lot, and I still get a spanking once in a while. It does happen. It does happen. But now, the biggest thing I've learned with age is to be don't it's like playing poker, right? You have a poker face and you just don't let it eat at you because you'll get gobbled up in no time. You really can in business. I've seen it so many times and it's really easy to think you're making, you know, um, how do I say it? Like make money. I've made a lot of money. I've made a lot of money and it's easy just to pee it away, you know what I mean? Because you can buy things that'll just eat you up, you know, because all these things just rot. When you start walking around your vehicles and you're like, wow, this one's got so many miles and this one's, rusted and then I need to replace this. And a lot of things like it took me a while to learn is like every time you make a transaction, you're probably losing money to a certain degree, right? Because now you got to pay the taxes, right? You got to go down and do the DMV, right? You got to claim this. Like even in the shop, right? The township, right? They want to know the property that's inside the building. Yes, your computer, your garage doors, your desk. I mean, anything property, your openers. We want to know how much property you have in there so we can tax you appropriately. You know what I mean? Which is like, huh? What? So now your house gets taxed or whatever. Now your property or your shop or wherever you're supposed to claim, stuff in there. Oh, well, now you got a shop, right? So now you got to have fire inspections, right? Now you got township that just shows up and wants to come in. I had that happen once, the secretary's like, they came in looking for the water meter. I'm like, huh? I'm like, it's right here when you open the front door. And she's like, I don't know. They came and I'm like, I was like, they do not go back in this building without, this is the key. This is the key without an appointment. They need to make an appointment. I learned that from a guy And he said they came in one day and he ran a small engine. And he's like, I knew I wasn't going to look good. He said I had a gas can sitting around because, I work on small engines and stuff. So he just told him, nope. He says, you ain't going back here. He says, you need to make an appointment. And I kind of stuck with that. So a lot of times things got shuffled around a little bit when it was appointment time. And there's a lot of lying, there's a lot of lying. You got to go through a lot of grief to get through this stuff. I remember township came through one time. I had an extension cord plugged in the outlet, GFI even, and it was ran outside for my diesel truck. And the guy goes, and what they do, right? The fire inspector sends their apprentice, right? And the apprentice wants to look like he's a good boy. So he's going to mark stuff up, right? Well, he told me, he goes, what's this extension cord for? And I said, it's outside. I said, for my diesel truck. And I said, is that a problem? I mean, the guy looked at me just like I'm looking at you and goes, nope. I'm like, okay. Now guess what? A couple weeks later, violation. Got to make another appointment. Got a violation for that extension cord. I'm like, are you serious? Like I would have literally got rid of that. But sure enough, so the next time they came, right, I cleaned everything out. There's nothing. There's no extension cords. There's no gas cans. There's nothing in this. It's just metal, right? Hinges and garage doors. Township comes in. Oh, you can't have stuff up in the rafters. Huh? It was up there the last time. Oh, well, they didn't catch it. That can't be up there. Because if there was a fire, it could come down. Well, if there's a fire, like, can't the roof come down? The roof is metal. What? And I said, well, can I just sign sign like a piece of paper that says like, we're not gonna we won't enter your building. We have a stipulation that says your building's so small, we would fight the fire on the outside. We're not gonna go in that building. Like, can I? Nope. So now the building inspector comes down. They do a little chitty chat, whatever, something, and then nothing ever became of it. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just the weirdest things. So you're always in like the crosshairs, it feels like. So just something to think about. But anywho, I am going to get off here, guys. I have kept you guys long enough. If you don't mind your way out, hit that like button. I already see we got 6, which is awesome. And, comment or email me. Like I said, if you guys got any questions, I always like to broadcast them, talk about them, because I want you guys to be smarter, quicker, faster than Uncle Dave. All right, guys, take care. We'll see you. Have a good night.